Hi, and welcome to my podcast, What's the Value of Addiction? My name is Brendon Watt. I'm an alcoholic and an addict, and I've been sober since April 2022. On this podcast, I will share my journey and the tools I've used to create a life that is not perfect, but a lot kinder and truer for me. I hope it can be a contribution to you so that you know that no matter where you are on this journey, something truly different is possible. Okay, welcome to the best podcast in the whole wide world. And I have my wonderful friend today, Amanda Anderson, as my guest. Hello, Amanda.
Hello, Brendon. Hi, everybody.
You like my intro? Why didn't I call it that?
No pressure, but
Yeah, no pressure. I had to get that out of the way first up, though, because if you're getting on this thing and listening, you need to have this awareness that it's the best podcast in the whole wide world. Okay. And if you think it's not, just stop thinking that. Okay. So we were having a conversation before we started this, and we were like, what do we talk about? Let's talk about business. Let's talk about creation. Let's talk about chaos. Let's talk about, 8,000 different things. So we're going to see where we go with this. But basically what we want to talk about is taking 2 more steps.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know about you, Amanda, but I know this for myself is I've had so many points throughout my life that I've just, I'll take 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back and 1 step forward and 1 step back. And, it's this continuous, I guess it's been a couple of things for me. It's been one, a lack of commitment to my life, but also it's also been this thing where I would let the world around me determine the flow of how my life moves. If the world is strange, then I am strange. If the world is stopped, then I am stopped. And it was like I never really gave myself much choice with that.
Yeah. I saw this quote a while ago that I think is very fitting for this, that said something like, my whole life changed when I realized that also the step backwards are also part of the dance.
I love
which
that.
I think is such a cool way of looking at it as well, because exactly as you say, and I have had so much of that as well throughout my life, of moving forward and then seemingly moving backwards. But the thing that I've also noticed using the tools of access is that moving backwards, quote unquote, is not necessarily backwards at all. It might seem like you're going backwards, or that something is wrong, or that why is this happening, or what's going on, or whatever. But afterwards, usually you can always see, or that's my experience anyway, I'm like, aha, okay, that happened because then this happened, and then that led to that. And if you just keep going, then
I love that quote too, because I had the weirdest day today. I was like full of creative mojo, and then I was going to create things and I was just like, man, that's not it. And then create something else, man, that's not it. And then just wanting to kind of do nothing. But then it's interesting because you say that thing of the step, what if the step backwards are just as much a contribution? As soon as, like, if I have that show up, as soon as I go into judging it, goodbye contribution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And what I've learned, but I still don't know it instantly. Sometimes it takes a little while to remind myself, but I know it more now than I did before anyway, is to also just like, okay, I trust that, if I have one of those days of like, nothing is working, it doesn't seem like I can create, I'm just like, I try to do things, but it just falls flat. I'm like, okay, what is actually required right now? And to allow yourself to go out and take a walk in nature or whatever. And exactly as you say, like, not to judge any of it. Because, when it comes to creation and business and money and all of it, like, we're so entrained to this whole idea that we have to like be productive all the time, and that there is this like constant
doing
doing, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like that has been and is still one of my biggest, like, I want to say challenges, to remind myself of like, right, it's not just about what I'm doing. It's also about like what am I being and what am I actually choosing. And exactly as you say, like the second that I judge any of it, well, it just
Yeah.
nothing works.
Well, isn't it interesting as well? Because that what am I do? It's been this constant doing, which eliminates where we have value for our being, but also you can't define it based on that.
No.
Like you can't. So you know this because I just told this story on a call that we were just on. But when I was a kid, I started my first business when I was 14, and it was restoring furniture. And I had like I went around to all the neighborhood, like all the doors, knocking on the doors. Hey, you got any furniture I could restore? And so many people did, and I did. It was amazing. I would put new hinges and knobs and handles. I would strip the paint back. I would polish and it was just, I loved it. I
I am
had
so impressed that you could do that at the age of 14. I was useless when I was 14.
really, oh man, I could service my own car when I first got a car.
Wow.
I could give it a full oil change. I could do all of it. I grew up like that. Like I grew up, my idea of creativity was I would pull my bicycle apart so it was all pieces and clean it all and put it all back together.
Wow.
And that is the thing that I realized with looking at that, because I also had a car wash business and I had a lawn mowing business. Now, I wasn't calling them businesses because I was 14. I was just like, can I just do this and you give me money, please? Come on, money come, money come, money come. And, but it was when I look at that, it was so much creativity. And then I remember my first adult business. It was, but here's this was registered with the government. This was a big boy business. And so there's a lot of pressure, no more of this fun creativity of like, restoring furniture and pulling apart bicycles and washing cars. None of that shit. This was serious business. And it's interesting because I look at that now and I'm like, wow, what would it be like to create my life from that space of generative energy?
Yeah, I love that. And it's so like that generative energy just comes from choosing and playing with what is actually fun for you.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the thing that gets lost somewhere along the way, when we grow up, when we become adults. Then, as you say, it all becomes so serious, and we put so much pressure on the businesses or the creations themselves, because when you were 14, you're like, if I make some extra money, awesome. And if I don't, meh, it's fine. But
Yeah.
then, when you're an adult and you have bills to pay and all of this and responsibilities, then all of a sudden you're pressuring this business to like, you have to make me money now. And the business is like, like, Jesus Christ, give me some space, man, because the
Yeah.
businesses and the creations and the projects and whatever it is, they all have, they have a consciousness of their own. They're entities of their own. And when we like, if you compare it with a plant, if you plant something in soil, you don't stand there looking at it and like being very impatient, like, why aren't you growing yet? Why aren't you this big, beautiful, magnificent thing yet? No, we just plant it and then we leave it, right? So just like all of this pressure that we put on creations, like, now it's your responsibility, business, to feed me and give me money and make sure I can pay for my mortgage and da 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 da. And the business is like,
Well, it's funny, like listening to you say that also, the thing that pops is because I'm looking at that energy of, now it's a big boy thing or a big girl thing, and now you got to get serious. And now, especially if you've got kids, and you've got dependents and you got all that stuff. And now you got a house and you got a mortgage and you got, it's like, But that I remember as a kid, and I could take quite a few moments because I remember having this as this awareness in my world of like, I cannot wait to grow up to get the fuck out of here. And also my reference point for a grown up was struggle with money, all this pressure, all this responsibility, not happy, definitely not choosing from the joy of it. So all of the projections, expectations, separations, judgments, and rejections, everything that you aligned and agreed with or resisted and reacted to about what becoming an adult is or growing up is, that you don't even recognize you did, because you're like, how the fuck did I get here? Everything that is, can we destroy and uncreate it all?
Yeah.
Right and wrong, good and bad, pod and pock, all 100 shorts, boys, poverts, creations, bases, and beyonds. I don't even know if we've used that clearing statement on this podcast yet. If we haven't, there you go. That's the Access Consciousness clearing statement. If you want more info on that, if you're listening to this and you're like, what the pock and pot? You can check out theclearingstatement.com, and basically it's epic. There you go. See, now not only do you get the best podcast in the world, here, check you. Not only do you get the best podcast in the world, you also get one of the best tools in the world, all in the same thing.
Like, it is pretty epic.
Oh my goodness. If you're out there listening to this, let me just say, you're having a good day. Okay, good. And if you're not also, and this is pissing you off, I get that too, because I really do get what it's like when somebody's, got joy going on and you man, oh.
Yeah, and totally. And that is exactly, what you just said with, like, it's interesting because I can recognize that as well. Like when I was younger, and I grew up fast, I want to say, like when I was 15, I was literally just, on my own, taking care of everything. Or I wasn't on my own, but I was grown up enough to,
Wait, how did that work? Because you just said you went from 14 and you were useless, and then you just sprang into it.
Then something happened. And
can of spinach. Just like, I was 14, I was useless, and then one day, boom, I'm on. This is happening, people. Get out of my way.
Yeah, pretty much, actually. I never thought of it that way, but yes, that's something happened there, and all of a sudden I was like, okay, I'm a grown up now. Hormones or something, I don't know. Yeah, exactly.
Awareness.
But I so recognize that thing as well, because I both and like the cognitive dissonance with it, because it was both this thing of like, oh, I can't wait to like live on my own and take care of myself and like create my life and and at the same time I also had that thing of like, but what is everybody like? It doesn't seem like people are actually having much fun, so it was like this awareness of, oh, but I know that I can create my life. Like somewhere I actually had that awareness, but also like looking around in the world and being like, but what are people actually doing? It's weird.
Isn't it interesting that we like have that automatic response to react to things like that? Like I notice for myself where like we'll have conversation say like this, but I get so many things go off in my world because it's like this this automatic response to be in reaction to the world around you rather than recognize, wait a minute, what is my reality with this? And when I look at the like with the talking about the energy with creation and the energy with business, when I talk about the thing of car wash furniture thing, it's so much lightness. My reality with business, and then I go into the journey of growing up, and it's like heavier and heavier and heavier and heavier.
Yeah.
Rather than the willingness to go, what's my reality with this?
Yeah. And it's almost like we're actually addicted to all of that reaction.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's the whole thing as well, or it has been and is for me with taking 2 more steps, is to continuously fucking remind myself of like, but what, I know something different. Like, yeah, I still react to everything, and I still have, I'm still very aware, even more aware of everything that is going on in the world. And it's so like instantaneous, that reaction to it, and the, relating to it, or making it real, making it significant, like whatever it is. But to take 2 more steps in that, like asking the question of, but what do I actually know? And what did I know before that maybe I have forgotten that I actually know? And to keep going and listening to that, and actually trusting that, which is not always easy. Like sometimes, listening to your knowing and trusting what you actually know, trusting your awareness is can be. And I think both of us have had many situations, or many times in our lives where we're like, I kind of know that I need to go this direction, but I'm also like, it doesn't make sense. Everybody else thinks that I'm fucking nuts or whatever, But the willingness to keep on going is, yeah, it's not always easy.
Yeah, and that with the 2 more steps, like call it 2 more steps, keep going, never give up, but it's an interesting thing. Like because I get that as well, where it's like, I know something is going to change,
Mhm.
but it's not changing. And I'm, or it doesn't appear to be changing. And that, I don't even quite know how to put it into words, but it's that, as soon as you go to judgment of it, you solidify it more. And so that
Mm.
even having the demand of oneself, or the willingness to have kindness even in those moments that you are in judgment of it,
Yeah.
going, okay, I'm judging myself for not moving fast enough, I'm judging this for not changing, and being present with that for me is that energy of keep going.
Mm. Yeah. And there's this quote from you, actually, from many years ago, that I keep referring back to, like in all the
What did I
classes that
do?
I
What did I
facilitate.
say?
Something brilliant. You said the only way to make a different choice is by enjoying the choices that you're making right now. And that was like, I remember the exact moment when you said it, because it so tweaked my whole world. And I was like, what? Like, that doesn't make any sense, because we're so taught that you can only make a different choice when something is bad or wrong, or when you have a reason and justification for why you're choosing something different. You can't just make a choice because you're curious, or because you're aware of something, in this reality. And it's just, I'm so grateful for that, because it really changed so much for me in this whole thing of, but if I'm feeling very intense right now, I'm uncomfortable, maybe things are not working out the way that I wanted them to, like whatever it is that is going on, to be like, but I can actually enjoy this as well.
Yeah.
And exactly as you say, if you don't judge it, like if you don't judge it, and another brilliant question to ask is, what's right about this that I'm not getting?
Yeah.
Like, if you can just gift yourself that softness and the relaxation, and like allow yourself to take a breath and be like, okay, if I didn't freak out about this, if I didn't go into wrongness about this, if I didn't judge any of it, what is actually right about it?
Yeah.
That is
Totally.
such a powerful, because then you can be like, okay, I can relax in this storm that is going on right now, because I know that it's not going to last forever. Something else is it's going to show up.
Yeah. Sometimes that can be the hardest fucking choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the other thing with that also is the the one of the things for me is I know that everything is energy. So if I'm separating from something in order to create change, I'm only going to create more of that energy, whether that's in the form of a person, whether that's in the form of a problem, whether that's in the form of judgment of myself for something. But if I'm separating from it, I'm only creating more of it. And which kind of, you're like, what? Yeah, anything that you resist persists. It
Right.
doesn't actually set you free of it. But this was one of the big keys in my sobriety with addiction and alcoholism was I had to run at it.
Right.
I had to. It was a head first battle. It wasn't because I remember even people would talk about well, you shouldn't be around alcohol and you shouldn't be around people that drink and you shouldn't be. I'm like, that's never going to work for me. I'm going to have to find a different way. Like I'm going to have to find a way to allow it to trigger me as long as it triggers me until I get through the triggers for myself. Because for any, like if you're listening to this and you're like, and things pop for you, then one of the things that could possibly be true for you is that if you have anything that's eliminated as a choice, you will eventually have to choose it to prove that you have choice. And so like we're
We're
weird.
so funny. Yeah.
But it's so funny. But like I can give you 8,000 examples of this in my life where eliminate a choice from my life. I will choose it to prove that I have choice in my life.
Yep.
And so with addiction or with there's two more steps, or with creating actual change from this space of allowance, what have you eliminated as a choice that keeps you choosing it to prove that you have choice, or keeps you going to choose it, or fighting to choose it, or
Yeah.
everything that brought up, right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, or 100 shorts, boys, perverts, creations, bases, and beyonds.
Yeah, and then it's like no wonder that we're like tired or we feel like things are not working or our body is hurting or whatever. Because if we, wow, talk about, we use so much of our creative capacity into all of this, because it's like the way like we are these infinite beings that have access to infinite amounts of energy, and all that energy has to go somewhere. So if we don't like actively actually choose to put it into creation, to put it into what is joyful for us, to put it into actually creating a life that we thoroughly enjoy, then yeah, all that energy is going to go to all of this, all of the proving and all of the avoiding and all of the points of views and all of the judgments and all of the, all of it.
All of the people stuff.
Yeah.
All that people stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, rather than that, I'm having that. I'm having that, kid restoring furniture energy.
Yeah.
Going on about, it's because the other thing that we were talking about before we started this that I think is kind of up in the world right now is, we were talking about, we've both been involved in working with access consciousness for quite a many years, and one of the things I noticed myself doing with creation, well, apart from doing, and that doing to prove that I'm being something, is trying to do the same thing over and over again. And I see that in the world right now because it's this, and I more so perceive it in the world right now. I don't necessarily see it, like I don't see clear examples, but I perceive it with this doing that same thing over and over again. And talk about well, we could bring this up with with all the stuff with AI. It exactly what it does. It does the same thing over and over again. It's based on what it's already done. And when we start functioning from that, if you're one of those creatures that is a seeker that is different in the world, and you start functioning from same every day, that is a recipe for no joy. So that question which it's the question of when you wake up every day, who am I today and what grand and glorious adventures can I have? What could you create today or what could you receive today that you've never created or never been willing to receive before?
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And it's like one of the things that we talk a lot about in Access is as a humanoid, as we call ourselves, like the seekers of the world,
Yeah,
whatever.
weirdos.
Yeah, exactly. All the weirdos out there. We actually need to have a lot going on. Otherwise we get fucking bored in a heartbeat, and
That's a
exactly
good
as you
point.
say, that like sameness. Sorry, now the wind is picking up again. It's funny how it does that like every time we talk. Um like that sameness and that doing the same thing and having, like it kills us and it kills our bodies.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. And I remember I was way back in the day, in the very beginning of using the tools of Access. I was on a class with Gary and Dane called something like, something along the lines of being like a I can't remember the title of it, but it was basically this, like, you're never satisfied. You're never going to be satisfied. And the conversation was really this thing of like, well, you have to add things to your life.
Yeah.
Like, otherwise you're going to get so bored that you're automatically going to like destroy it instead. And because I had bought into that whole point of view that is so in this world of find your thing, find your one thing that you get really good at, and then you just become really successful on that one thing. And I was like,
Yeah.
but I can't. It doesn't work. And then with that conversation, I was like, oh, so what if I didn't have to focus? What if I didn't have to just like be on a one track? What if I could actually allow myself to, as you mentioned in the very beginning here as well, like chaos? Because we are actually quite chaotic as beings. But when we try to make ourselves so ordered and do the same thing over and over again, and it simply doesn't work.
True story. Yeah,
So,
that. What can I add to my life today?
yeah. And it's such a magical question to ask. Like, I've played with that question for 10 years now. And what shows up is always, I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? Where did that come from? And it adds this like excitement, and like you get surprised by what the universe actually delivers. Because when you ask and you put it out there, the universe is like, oh, here's someone that is actually willing to receive in a different way. Here you go. And the fucking magic and miracles that show up is just amazing. And then like combined with this whole energy of like never quit, never stop, take two more steps, and it might not show up like that. It might take a little while. Like, for an example, now I'm in Mallorca in Spain, and I moved here about 6 months ago. And that is something that I have been asking for like 7-8 years. I've been in this question of like, oh, I know that I don't really want to have Sweden as my like home base anymore. I would like to actually live somewhere else. What would it take? What Hey, universe, show me the way. And then
Yeah, you went from Sweden to paradise,
exactly.
and hot paradise.
Yes. Yeah, it's amazing. And
It
it's
is.
just one of those things that I was like, wow, I could never have cognitively figure out how it was going to show up, when it was going to show up, or what
Yeah.
it was going to look like. But now that I'm here, I'm like, yes, this
You know,
is exactly what I was asking for.
that's such a cool acknowledgement. And so I was listening to Access Me today, the the College for Expanded Awareness and Consciousness, which is basically this app you can get with Access Consciousness, the last 30 years of classes, right? You know about it. And I'm listening to this old class, and Dane is on there doing the recordings. Uh, Scary Douglas, yes, level 2 and 3, yes,
So
Gold
cute.
Coast, and I'm like, and look at his life now. 25 years ago, you couldn't have went, okay, you're going to go from recording to be, who he is today. That's every single choice he's made to get there, every question he's asked to create that. And just going on the topic of addiction again, because this pops into my world with like 3 years ago when I started sobriety, I did not think I was going to get through it.
Mm.
You know, and so hearing you talk about that too, with you asked for something 8 years ago and here it is showing up, that's yes.
Mm.
That's just yes. So what's that one choice? Also, the one choice you could make today that would allow things to start changing, but also what can you add to your life?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's beautiful. Like just that energy of following what is light and following what brings you joy, you know? And it's keep choosing and make one choice and then make one more choice and one more choice and one more choice, and then again those steps that feels like they're going backwards, they're part of it too, you know? It's like this meandering path. It's not a highway, but how much can you enjoy that meandering path that is just like, wow, I didn't expect this and I didn't expect this, and oh, this was a bit tricky or hard or whatever. I didn't, okay, but let me be with that. And then just because also like this perspective of like we are here on this beautiful planet living these lives with these amazing bodies, and we actually get to experience all of it, you know, not just the quote unquote good stuff. Like we get to experience all of it. How the fuck did we get so lucky?
Yeah, how did we? And don't forget about ice cream and dolphins and the
Yes.
ocean and horses and nature and you know all that good stuff. You know,
Yeah,
I
totally.
highly recommend it.
Highly recommend all the fun stuff. Yes.
I highly recommend all the fun stuff. There you go. Well, thank you, my beautiful friend. You are wonderful. Do you have anything that you want to mention on here?
Um
You want to share with people?
mm, Nothing that in particular that pops. Just, you know,
Just get happy and stay there. There you go.
exactly that. Thank
Yeah.
you. You took that out of my head. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys. Thank you for listening. Until next time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for listening. I am grateful for your presence. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure to subscribe and share it with a friend that might benefit from these conversations. For more resources, check out my website, brendonwatt.com, and what else is possible you have never considered.